Tonight, on the Boland Report, Google is hit by a landmark lawsuit by the U.S. government over search. Deadline looms for COVID-19 relief deal, as well as Russia-U.S. nuclear deal. All this and more for the Boland Report for Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. Good evening. Welcome to the Boland Report for October 20th. Looking into the top headlines. White House officials and Congress Democrats are entering into last-ditch talks to agree on the stimulus bill to inject cash into the battered U.S. economy. Democratic Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has set a Tuesday deadline for agreement to be reached. Earlier this month, President Trump had canceled the budget negotiation before directing his team to resume them. Each side said they want the deal passed before November 3rd election, but experts say this is very unlikely. A statement from Nancy Pelosi's office on Monday evening said that she and the Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin had made progress during a phone call earlier that day. The negotiation continued to narrow their differences, her spokesman said, adding that Pelosi continued to hope by the end of the day Tuesday we will have clarity on whether we will be able to pass a bill before the election. In order for any deal to be finalized, it must be approved by Democrat-controlled House and then the Republican-controlled Senate before going to the President to be signed into law. One of the major sticking points continue to be federal funding to cash-starved states and local government, which Democrat insists on, but Republican label a blue state debt bailout. Democrat also continue to press here for a clear national COVID-19 testing strategy and an expansion of child care access. The White House is pushing for tax cuts and liability protection for businesses bringing back their workers. The White House has waived on how broad the deal should be, as key Republican lawmakers expressing hesitance about adding to the ballooning U.S. national debt. Speaking to Fox News on Tuesday, President Trump said he would support a relief bill that even larger than $2.2 trillion package proposed by Democrats. It's very simple. I want to do even bigger than the Democrats, he told the program. Now, not every Republican agrees with me, but they will. I even wants to do it even bigger than Democrat, because this is the money going to the people that did not deserve what happened to them coming out of China. Later on Tuesday, reports that Senator Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate Republican, told his party members probably that he did not think the White House should reach a deal with the Democrat ahead of the election. Mr. McConnell also reportedly told Republicans that trying to vote on the deal might throw a wrench into the plan to confirm the president court nominee Amy Coney Barrett next week. The last of the three coronavirus stimulus package was passed in March, and many of the funds have already been used. Talks on the fourth package collapsed in August, and it's been on and off since then. Relief measures have been proposed by both the House and Senate, but failed to gain broader traction in Congress. Meanwhile, new daily cases have been trending upwards. Last week, the U.S. nearly broke a record for new infection recorded in one day. On Tuesday, the U.S. CDC, or Center for Disease Control and Prevention, reported that the pandemic had left more than 285,000 people more dead than they would be normally expected in a typical year. 2/3 of the assessed deaths were caused by the virus itself, and the rest were other causes. The stimulus package has stalled, and in classic Washington fashion, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, blame the other for politicizing the issue. Nancy Pelosi has expressed guarded positive about the bill prospect, but remains concerned about difference the negotiators has. Meanwhile, at the White House, I spoke with the President's economic advisor, Larry Kino. He said that the President has worked hard on the bill. Mr. Kinlow also sighed loudly and said the discussion had become ideological. There has been millions, not a million. There's been a number of political points that has nothing to do with COVID-19, he told me, and small groups of reporters referring to the bill. Once it becomes a huge bill with lots of stuff in it, That was hurt. At this point, there's no resolution. Yet Republican and Democrat both say they're doing their best and that the other side has caused all the political drama. How about the bill progress? In other words, it's business as usual here in Washington. Pelosi said if there's no deal reached by the end of Tuesday, the talks will be suspended until after the election, which is now just under 14 days away. However, she could be buffing, as Trump apparently was on October 6th when he tweeted direction to his team to stop negotiating until after the election. When I immediately after I win, we will pass a major stimulus bill. I shut down talks 2 days ago because they weren't working out, and now they're starting to work out, he told Fox News later that week, citing breakthrough in aid for airlines and direct payments to households. Ahead of a scheduled call with the Senate House leader, Tuesday, Ms. Pelosi appeared to soften her self-imposed deadline during an interview with Bloomberg. It isn't what this day was a day. We will have a deal. It was having terms on the table to be able to go to the next step, she said. We are on a path. We have to be positive. FBI is in possession of the laptop reportedly belonging to Hunter Biden, which contains emails revealing his foreign business dealing, including contacts in Ukraine and China, two senior administrators told Fox News on Tuesday. The FBI declined to confirm or deny the existence of an investigation into the laptop or the emails, a standing practice. Further, Fox News has learned that FBI and Joint Justice official concur with his assessment from National Intelligence John Rupp that the laptop is not part of Russian disinformation campaign targeting Democrat Joe Biden. He said on Monday that the Hunter Biden's laptop and the emails are not part of some Russian disinformation campaign, despite claims from the House Intelligence Committee chairman Adam Schiff from California. Let me be clear: the Intelligence Committee does not believe this. Doesn't believe that because there is no intelligence that supports it. He said that we have shared no intelligence with Adam Schiff or any member of Congress. He went on to say that that's simply not true. If you thought it wasn't possible for Schiff to have any less credibility, DOJ just proved you wrong, a senior intelligence told Fox News. Another senior administration also told the news channel that the FBI is currently investigating the laptop as part of Russian disinformation campaign. Meanwhile, another senior law enforcement told the news agency that the emails are real. The emails in question were first obtained by New York Post last week. In part, revealed that Hunter Biden allegedly introduced his father, the then vice president, to a top executive at the Ukrainian national gas firm Burisma Holdings less than a year before he pressured government officials in Ukraine to fire the prosecutor who was investigating the company founder. The Post also revealed that Biden, at Hunter request, met with the executive in April 2015 in Washington, D.C. The meeting was mentioned in an email of appreciation, according to the Post, that the board member sent to Hunter Biden on April 17, 2015, a year after Hunter took his position on the board of Burisma. Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to D.C. and giving me an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together. It's a reality, honor, and pleasure, the email read. Sources told Fox that the big guy was reference to the former vice president. The New York Times initially published emails with others. While Biden has not commented on the email or his alleged involvement in any deals with Chinese energy firm, his campaign released the former vice president tax documents and returns, which does not reflect any involvement with Chinese investments. The U.S. government has filed charges against Google, accusing the company of violating competition laws to preserve its monopoly over internet searches and online advertising. The lawsuit marked the biggest challenge brought by U.S. U.S. government officials against the major tech company in years. It followed more than a year investigation, and comes as the biggest tech firm facing intense scrutiny for their practice at home and abroad. Google called the case deeply flawed. The company has also maintained that its sector remains intensely competitive, that its practice put customers first. People use Google because they choose to, not because they were forced to or because they can't find alternatives themselves, it said. The charges filed in federal court were brought by the U.S. Department of Justice and 11 other states. The lawsuit focused on the billions of dollars Google pays each year. The search engine is installed as a default option on browsers and devices such as mobile phones. Officials said those deals has helped secure Google's place as a gatekeeper to the internet, allowing it to own or control the channels for about 80% of search queries in the U.S. Google has thus foreclosed competition for internet search, the lawsuit said. General search engine competition declined. Vital distribution, scale, and product recognition asserted that they have no real chance to challenge Google. It's added that Google is so dominant that Google is not only a noun to identify the company and Google search engine, but also a verb which means search the internet. The suit also said the deals has hurt public by damaging search quality in terms of privacy and data protection, reducing chance and frauding innovation. Sally Hubba, who works for the Open Market Institute Open Market of Washington think tank, that has long pushed for more aggressive actions against big tech firms, saying focusing on Google search deals was one of the easiest legal cases to make against the company. The case could be the first of many in the U.S. that challenge dominance of big tech firms and potentially lead to the breakup. Other states has launched their own investigation and said that they may join the suit filed on Tuesday or file their own. Politics in Congress has also called for actions against Google and fellow tech firms, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple in an effort that has united Democrats and Republicans. The decision to file the lawsuit just a few weeks before the U.S. presidential election has raised questions about whether it was simply a move by the Trump administration to prove its willingness to challenge the influence of the sector if it gains a second term. But officials said they had not rushed the investigation to assert file before the election, noting that for years, many advocates have said the government was moving too slowly on such issues. When we come back, the latest on welcome back to the show. Russia said on Tuesday it's ready to accept the U.S. proposed to freeze the number of nuclear warheads and it said the nation's last arms control pact for 1 year, and Washington responded that it's prepared to make a quick deal. The apparent breakthrough coming after months of difficult talks and 2 weeks before the U.S. presidential election appeared to narrow the gaps between the sides over the face of the 2010 New START Strategist Arms Production Treaty Agreement, which is set to expire in February 2021. The U.S. State Department spokesperson Morgan Otra welcomed the Russian offer and said the U.S. is ready to quickly clinch in an agreement. We appreciate the Russian Federation willingness to make progress on the issue of nuclear arms control, he said in a statement. The United States are prepared to meet immediately to finalize a variable agreement. We expect Russia to empower its diplomats to do the same. The statement from Russia Foreign Ministry marked the shift in Moscow's position after the U.S. And Russia rejected each other's offer regarding the New START treaty that expires in February. The ministry is ready for a deal. The U.S. does the same without putting forward any additional demands, the statement said. The New START treaty was signed in 2010 by then U.S. President Barack Obama and Russia President. The pact limits each other to no more than 1,555 deployed nuclear warheads and 700 deployed missiles and bombers, and envisioned a sweeping on-site inspection to verify compliance. After both Moscow and Russia withdrew there from the 1987 Immediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty last year, the New START is the only remaining nuclear arm between the two countries. Russia has offered the extension without any condition, while U.S. President Trump administration initially pushed for a new arms control agreement that would include China, but Beijing rejected that proposal. The U.S. recently modified its stance on its 1 year extension of the 2010 treaty, but said this must be couped with the imposition of the broader cap on U.S. and Russian nuclear warhead. The cap will cover nuclear warhead attached to battlefield weapons, which are limited by the New START Treaty that only restricts fragile nuclear arsenal. Active COVID-19 cases are at an all-time high in Canada, Ontario, and Alberta as official and both provinces stress the importance of COVID tests. Alberta reported 323 new cases and one more death on Tuesday. A medical chief officer of health said in the province it entered a dangerous zone. The cases pushed Alberta active caseload to 3,223 cases. Set just yesterday. Alberta case numbers in Alberta have been rising steadily since the beginning of October. What you see on the screen is current active cases in Canada. As of earlier today, all the data is through the local provinces. The health minister said the province will no longer be testing people who don't have symptoms and those who have not been in contact with anybody who has been infected. In mid-September, Alberta dialed back its testing, reserving it for a priority group. This is an important and necessary step that will help us reduce testing wait time and get results to Alberta and limit the spread. She said, I will say right now, we're in a danger zone where in the coming weeks we will be ready to tell the story whether we are able to collectively bend the curve downward, she said. We are not at that point where our system is not able to cope, but we're getting closer. In Ontario, active cases are all-time high after the province reported 821 new cases of COVID-19 on Tuesday, the second most on a single day since the virus began to resurge in the province in mid-August. The province active caseload is now a record 6,237. Asked Tuesday about relatively low levels of testing in the past 24 hours, Premier Doug Ford said the province labs has now cleared through the backlog of tests that once ballooned to more than 90,000 and said there's more room for many as 50,000 tests daily, but that people can't be forced to be tested. Ford said the province has set up additional testing units in hotspots, but some people seem to be holding back from getting an assessment. The province changed its testing guidelines last month, making COVID-19 tests available to only people showing symptoms by appointment at the assessment center. As of 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, Canada has 232,000 cases and 689 confirmed or presumptive COVID-19 cases. Provinces listed as 171,743 as those as resolved or recovered. A tally of deaths based on the province provincial health report and CDC reporting stood at 9,794. British Columbia health official reported 167 new cases and one more death on Tuesday. In Saskatchewan reported 44 new cases on Tuesday, a day after seeing the highest day increase of 66. The province said now there's 18 people in the hospital due to the virus, the second most since the beginning of the pandemic. There was 19 people in the hospital on May 8th. Manitoba reported 110 new cases and declared an outbreak at a high school and 3 personal care homes in Winnipeg on Tuesday. There's 32 people in Manitoba Hospital being treated for COVID-19, including 6 in ICU, the province said on Tuesday. That's the highest number reported to case reported in hospital to date. Quebec reported 877 new cases of COVID-19 and 5 more new deaths, as well as 7 deaths that occurred at an earlier date. There's 565 people in hospital, including 100 in ICU. Newfoundland and Labrador reported no new COVID-19 cases for 4 straight days. The province continued to have 11 active cases. Prince Edward Island on Tuesday reported 1 new case, a female rotational worker in her 20s who traveled outside the Atlantic bubble for work purposes. New Brunswick reported no new cases of COVID-19 on Tuesday with 8 additional recovery. Disinformation campaign falsely suggests Canadians will be forced to send to quarantine sites. Canadians will not be forced into quarantine COVID-19 containment camps, a health spokesperson for Health Minister Patty Henge said on Tuesday, taking aim at disinformation campaign that's been circulating on social media for weeks. The claim that the federal government is preparing to forcibly intern Canadians is patently false, the spokesperson said. The federal government has announced funding for voluntary quarantine sites for some of the country's homeless and made plans to expand self-isolating capacity for returning international travel without suitable places to go. But Canadians will not be compelled to leave their house for so-called COVID camps. The answer is no, we're not building containment camps, the spokesman told the Canadian news outlet CBC News. Disinformation like this intends to deceive the Canadian and to cause fear and confusion. We're encouraging Canadians to double-check sources before sharing to avoid spreading misinformation. Independent Ontario MP Randy Hiller, who's a vocal anti-masker who likened the current pandemic to a bad flu season, have been warning his Eastern Ontario constituent that the federal government is preparing to establish those camps for COVID patients. In recent exchange at Queen's Park, Hiller pressed the provincial Progressive Conservative government to detail what it knows about Ottawa's supposed plan to detain people. I asked the government if people should be prepared for camps. Hiller asked during question period on October 7th. Your government must be in negotiation and be aware of those plans to potentially detain and isolate citizens and residents of our country and province, Hiller said in the province legislature on October 9th. When we come back, the latest global news headlines. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. In the show Unity, more than 200 200 workers demonstrated Tuesday at Parliament Hill calling for the federal government to release a plan to safely restart the industry crushed by COVID-19. Holding SOS and Mayday signs, grounded pilots, flight attendants, airport staff, and other aviation workers repeated their calls for financial help for the airline sector, including loan costs, long-term loans. For the airlines, the workers also want Canada to ease travel restrictions through rapid testing at airports and end the 14-day quarantine when entering the country. COVID-19 had crippled the industry and cut back on operation hugely. Major airlines have scaled back regional routes and announced major layoff this week. Air Transit said they're cutting half of its remaining pilot position. Protesting aviation workers aimed their soaring anxiety and anger at Canada Health Minister. Air Transat Captain Jeffrey Daniels raised a place card over his head with an image of the Transport Minister with the Wear Waldo hat. Daniels said he's been flying jets for more than 20 years and recently been laid off. Brought back for more than 3 months and received another layoff notice this week. He calls the situation a train wreck. Daniels said he's upset more than 6 months has gone by and the Transport Minister is still studying options for help, but hasn't publicly released the possibility. It's just a terrible feeling of uncertainty, said Daniel. We don't know what the plan is. Many are just lost. At several points, the crowd chanted. The Transport Minister was invited to the rally but did not attend because he was located in Montreal COVID red zone and limiting his travel, according to a letter he sent to organizer. His office said the Transport Minister is actively working to put forward solutions. Our government is working very hard to achieve this in a timely way, and what will be decided will be in the best interest of Canadians, said Press Secretary Leva in a statement to Canadians CBC News. Dwayne Miley, a flight attendant with Air Transit who hasn't worked since March, says he's sick of waiting. He said it's been painful and devastating to his family, living off the wage subsidy that had been about $1,000 a month, enough to cover his family child care. It's been demoralizing when you think of something that's going to be done. They're going to be coming out with some positive news, said Miley. It's always, we are waiting, we are waiting, we are talking, but there's been no action. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said there's been action, and Tuesday he pointed to the wage subsidy program which has delivered over $1 billion to support Canada's major airlines. It's been a huge and important to keep those airlines going, said Trudeau in a news conference. Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chris Freeland also said that she spoke to the heads of major Canadian airlines and with unions last week. We're definitely an issue that we're looking at closely and working on, Freeland said at a news conference. The Airlines Pilot Association said it's been respectfully lobbying for target support for the industry for more than half a year. We did not receive any firm commitment from the government with respect to targeted support for the airline industry. And right now, words are not simply enough, said the association's president Tim Perry. Each week, we're seeing pilot cuts, and the Transat pilots are the latest victims of this ongoing saga and why the federal assistance is needed even more urgently. Before we head into a quick break, here's the latest stock market updates. So here's the stock market updates. The Chicago Blackhawks wrote a letter to season ticket holders on Tuesday confirming that the team was committed to rebuilding after trading winger Brandon Saad and allowing veteran goaltender Corey Cloffer to leave in a free agency this month. We recently said goodbye to a pair of popular two-times champions and inquired some new players be a trade in free agency, the letter read. We understand it's been tough to see those respective veterans go and realize that they may have some questions about our direction. We'd like to address that direction and share why we're hopeful for the future of Blackhawks hockey. We are committed to developing a young player and rebuilding our roster. We want more than another window to win. We want to reach the summit again and stay there, an effort that will require a stockpile of emerging talent to complement our top players. The influx of youth and their progress will provide roster flexibility and depth throughout the lineup. We are already the youngest team in 2020 playoff, and several Blackhawks experienced that intensity in the first time. This will help further establish the culture that embraces the grind and prove it driven by competitors who are relentless, engaged, and motivated by a team-first mentality to win. As a young player develop and learn how to win consistently, they make some mistakes. We will miss the mark sometimes too, but we will communicate openly with you on this journey together. We know that what comes next must be more than just words that inspires us. Thank you for watching the Boland Report, and we hope that you had an awesome evening. As always, see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. and have an awesome rest of your night.